The first thing I fixed was something you may have heard about recently. Internal enemy number one, a compromised gut. Gut health is hugely important to overall health. In fact, having healthy bacteria in your gut is directly related to healthy weight.
As we head into this holiday week, we wanted to reflect back on what has happened over 2020. It's been a crazy ride this last year with all the uncertainty and things happening and the world changing. And so Sean Cannell and myself decided that we wanted to give you what we've learned in 2020. My name is Heather Torres, and I am the host of the Think Marketing podcast. And if you're new here, I want to welcome you. We release a brand new episode every single Tuesday. So if you are new, make sure you subscribe wherever you're consuming this content from. Now, like I said, 2020 has been a roller coaster, but there are some great lessons that have been learned over this time. And as leaders, I think it's really important that we reflect on what we've learned. So grab a journal, because this one is 5 lessons that I've learned over 2020. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube, or in the Apple review if you are listening on podcasts, and let me know what are some of the lessons that are takeaways for you. Well, this episode is also brought to you by our Think Masterclass. Over this holiday season, if you have an extra hour of time for learning, which you should be putting on your calendar, make sure that you go to thinkmasterclass.com so that you can get the 3 lessons to YouTube success, all of the changes that have happened on YouTube over this year, and how you can succeed if you're starting or wanting to grow your YouTube channel this next year. Sean Cannell, the CEO of Think, does a phenomenal job in this hour class to help you grow and succeed on YouTube. All right, let's get into today's featured conversation.
In every mighty empire lurked a chaotic world of payroll and HR. Pharaoh Khufu had to settle for the pyramids we know today because the best engineers lived too far away. If only Khufu could hire and equip the talent he needed, who knows what the 7th wonder of the world would be. Whoa, that's the most beautiful Cuba.
Heather, I'm excited to talk about 5 lessons you learned in 2020. I mean, 2020 was a crazy year, and a lot of challenges, a lot of things none of us have ever experienced before, none of us could have ever predicted. Personal issues, business issues, family issues, cultural issues, election issues. But I know that our theme at Think Media was really, how do we adapt? How do we pivot? And really, what are the lessons that we can learn for good? How can we see the positive perspective and use hard times to potentially create momentum in our businesses and our YouTube channels? And so you have 5 lessons. And the first one is change is the only constant. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, change is the only constant. To me, it just means that every time you feel like you're in a flow, every time, you think, okay, this is the way we're going to do it, we need to change, because change is the only constant. And if you live in that world, if you just know that what happened yesterday probably won't happen today, or just knowing that that there's always going to be something changing, and never living in we don't do it that way, or that's not how we've done it in the past, and you live in the expectation of what's to come, then you have the opportunity to see it as an opportunity and not as a disadvantage. And so I think it's really important in 2020, when we look at everything that happened, when our business started to really change in March, that we looked ahead and we said, what can change? Who needs our help? How can we help them better? How can we lean in more into what we offer here at Think? And I think that knowing that change is always going to be constant is key. I feel that in my own personal life too, raising 3 kids, homeschooling them, and you're a new dad, so it's almost like week to week, something is changing with him, right? And so even when you think about, okay, I've got my parenting going right, I'm really synergizing with this child, and then this kid does something, right? And there's always going to be change. And so I like to just live in the expectation of, not in the uncertainty, but just in the belief that it's going to change, and that change is a positive and not a negative.
And what are some of the changes that we made at Think Media? Ones that stand out to me that crisis has the opportunity to reveal potential weaknesses or areas that we could strengthen in our business. I think it caused us to tighten up our communications, especially because now we had to communicate. We were already remote, which was a blessing, but we had to communicate at another level. So we started to communicate more with each other, with our community. We started new things. What are some of the changes that you think were positive at Think Media that even people could apply in 2021 maybe to their businesses?
Yeah, I love how you said number one was communication. I think that is huge. Whenever there's change, it's not communicating once, it's continual communication. So one of the things we did at Think is we always kept the goals in the forefront. We were really talking about not just the challenges that were happening, but the successes that were happening. And so I think being able to communicate between teams, between people, we were also really, like you said, we were adding new things. And as we were adding new things, it was developing more in communication, allowing for our team to have some mental time, but also to keep them focused on what the end goal was. And so I think another thing that changed too was we went deeper. We're going to talk about this in the next one, but we went deeper even more so than we had before by using the technology that was in front of us. And we actually onboarded some additional team members during this time. So that was a change. We also onboarded different systems so that we could communicate better and allow for our team to move faster with the things we were doing.
I love that, which is number two, a lesson you learned from 2020, which was prioritize people. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I think a lot of times when you're put into a stressful situation, this is my personality at least, when I'm put into a stressful situation, I sometimes like to guard myself, but that actually means pushing people away and I go insular. And I think one of the lessons that I really learned in 2020 was the idea of allowing people to be the priority. So I was putting more time in taking the focus off of myself and putting the focus on the people that mattered most to us, which was our families. And then beyond that, our customers, helping them realize that even though the world is changing and things are crazy, that they still had the opportunity right in front of them. So just bringing that reminder back to them. So it was our families, our customers, and our community. I think it was really important that, we've been able to foster a very active online community. And so keeping them active rather than watching the news all day, watch some Think Media videos, the idea of putting your priorities still in place and not backing down from that. And I think by being able to prioritize people, 2020 for me was a growth year. 2020 for me, while it was a challenging year, we also just went deeper as a team. We went deeper into our family. I know in yours, you said, you had more hikes with your wife than you ever had before. Same with our family. We really had a lot more family time together. And I think the last part too was really honing in on our network. We love to travel. We like to go to different conferences and events. That wasn't necessarily happening this year. And so it was really making sure that we were setting aside the right time, especially for me, to network with the people that were important to me. So making sure that I was checking in or that I was, getting on a Zoom coffee date with a friend or something so that I could still continue to grow my network. And one of the things we did this year was we hosted a few different challenges. And I think what that brought to our community was the ability for them to network with each other. We also hosted Grow with Video Live this year, which was all digital, and that allowed people to connect and network with each other as well. So just allowing for different opportunities for people to be your priority when you take the focus off of yourself and you put it towards helping other people. I think that can actually enrich your life more.
Man, I love that. And that's something we could all learn from. It, just like you, it's easy when times are hard and when the news cycle is so toxic and when things are so crazy to want to hide under a rock. Mm-hmm. It's like, come on, it's like Netflix, Ben and Jerry's, let's lock down. But people, we need each other, mm-hmm. and we need encouragement. And one of the things I tried to adopt was the role model mindset and just thinking about who needs me to be strong or who needs to be encouraged. One of the best ways they say to build good friends is to be a good friend. Mm-hmm. And so I know in 2020 we maybe wish we got encouraged more or got text more or got somebody in our Instagram feed encouraging us more. But the question is, how can we potentially prioritize people, because people matter most? And I love that so much. Number 3 is overcome paralysis by taking massive action. Tell me about this lesson.
Yeah, I think by having the leadership already in our company to be able to take massive action. A few things we do here at Think Media that I think everyone should do is we write down our goals consistently. We always have our goals in the forefront. And when it's taking massive action, it kind of goes back to the idea that when change can happen or uncertainty can happen, that paralysis can start to set in. You don't want to make videos. You don't want to write the next script. You don't want to connect with people. You really are working on yourself rather than thinking about, well, what is the opportunity in front of us? And I think one of the things we learned in 2020 is we already had everything we needed. We already had the cameras. We already had the gear. We already had the internet connection. So why don't we start doing things? Why don't we start taking more action? And, our plans changed. We had no challenges on the calendar for 2020, but when the lockdown happened, when things started to go sideways in the world, we thought, okay, well, how can we bring people together? What do we have access to? And so I think about overcoming paralysis by taking massive action really means writing down what do you already have in your possession that you could be using as the tool to do the thing you want to do. So if you had, you were laid off your job, or you were just in a position where you weren't able to work, well, let's make some videos, and I think that was a big part of it. And for me, taking massive action was sticking to the things that I knew were great, like my routine in the morning, like my routine at night, like my dates with my kiddos, right? Like still making sure that the things that mattered most to me were still happening, and I was putting more time and energy into those things.
Man, that's so powerful. And I think about literally the physics law of objects in motion tend to stay in motion, and objects at rest tend to stay at rest, the law of momentum. And when we had the government and potentially governors, potentially your job, or just different things that maybe caused things to come to a halt, our economy came to a halt, maybe your business came to a halt, it is up to us. Momentum's hard to build, but it was up to us to actually create momentum, to keep momentum going, to maybe potentially double down on working twice as hard, but to overcome paralysis by taking massive action. And I think that's something that Think Marketing community, ask yourself, what do you need to take massive action on? Stop pondering and start posting. Start just leaning in. Massive action, and action is the antidote for reaching your goals. You gotta actually just step out, punch fear in the face, punch perfectionism in the face, press record, go live, build your business, even though it's scary. And if you're waiting for certainty, you'll be waiting your whole life.
So good.
It was such an uncertain year. We had no clue what was around the future. I remember those Zoom meetings with the team and stuff, and I'm just like grinning, baring my teeth. I hope this works. I hope we're meeting in 2 weeks. I hope things keep going.
Yeah.
But we just kept taking action, and we kept moving forward. And I love that lesson. And I think that's an important lesson all 2021, when we're going to encounter many more challenges, probably similar to 2020. Mm-hmm. All right, number 4, obstacles breed innovation. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I think being open to kind of repeating the same thing with the idea of just being open to innovating in your company. I loved I didn't love when the lockdown happened, don't hear that, but I loved seeing the innovation from different businesses. Someone we know was talking about in her community, she had a spin instructor. They owned a gym. Well, all gyms were closed. So what did she do? She started leasing out the gym equipment to the people who used to be in her spin class, and she was doing them online. So the idea of still staying innovative in your company, when you have something coming up against you, an obstacle coming up against you, what are the other opportunities? How could you pivot your plan to make an impact in your business? So I think 2020 really taught us that we have the opportunity to see the obstacles that are in front of us and then collaborate and come up with new innovations. And I think that the Think team did a great job this year, really thinking about how can we innovate in our business. We really took the content we were making to heart. Like we really focused on, well, what's going to drive the needle? What's going to help people the most? And we really went back to the basics. And a lot of times in innovation, you think it needs to be the new, cool, flashy thing. But really what it could breed is the idea of innovating within the restraints of going back to the basics.
So good. Think marketing, ask yourself, how can you innovate even in the midst of maybe tough times? Or maybe if one door is closed, what potential other doors have opened for your YouTube channel, for your topic? I love the story from this year of Canlis, a restaurant that's in Seattle. And of course, restaurants got crushed. They got completely shut down. So now they're no longer able to have their main way of earning money. And when Canlis was forced to lock down, they started 3 new businesses. They started a morning delivery, or rather pickup bagel business, so people could drive through. They'd have kind of right out front of their restaurant, they'd still use their kitchen, and people could get a breakfast bagel. They started a second business, which was a box lunch business, so you could again drive through, grab a box lunch ready to go for you. And then they started a dinner business, which was a delivery service where you would get all the things you need, including a nice bottle of wine, to have a dinner prepared for you at home. And they leveraged social media to promote it. They used Instagram to promote it. And what they did during dinner was they had the live piano that you would experience at this fine dining restaurant. In fact, one of our Video Ranking Academy students plays piano for Canlis.
Cool.
And you would be able to stream live piano to your living room while you ate this box dinner, during with that bottle of wine and with the mashed potatoes and everything else. So a door was definitely closed for them, but they saw that other doors opened and they began to innovate. We may not see what that is now, but that's the mindset that we have to be in is, how can we pivot our plan? We're going to pivot, not panic. And we've been continually thinking about that at Think Media. And you mentioned challenges were an innovation for us. We'd never done it before, and we'd never done it before. So we were super scary. Of course, we invest in mentors and courses and things to teach us how to do things we've never done. And that's, I think, one of the reasons why that went so good, because it wasn't like we reinvented the wheel. But I also think about, we started the Coffee with Candle show. That was an innovation. By the way, inspired by probably Gary Vee, because he's just started to do a daily show called Tea with Gary Vee. Coffee with Candle, like not super creative, but innovative for us. We started the Think Marketing Live show. We doubled down on content and really challenged, as you mentioned, Omar and Kyle and Tony and Nolan to innovate in their video ideas and to answer specific questions that matter now.
Yes.
People started asking different questions when culture changed. The questions changed when culture changed. And so we started to answer different questions. I love that. And I think that innovation has got to be the theme of 2021, because we're in a rapidly changing society, culture, economy. And it doesn't mean that you can't still survive and prosper, but you may have to be willing to change. And the speed with which you change and the speed with which you're willing to change can give you an edge, because most people hate change and they don't want to do it quickly. And so the faster you can change, the better. Which brings us to number 5. And you said guard your biggest asset. I'm curious.
I'm free to grow.
I'm free to learn.
I'm free to make the next big thing.
Contra Costa College is free for full-time students, which makes you free to explore all the incredible opportunities unleashed by higher learning. Start your future and apply today at contracosta.edu/free.
Stop by Safeway and bring delicious meals to your table this new year. Share meaningful meals and moments together around the freshest ingredients. Get your favorites guaranteed fresh or your money back. Enjoy the same prices online as in-store. Sincerely, Safeway. Restrictions apply.
I'm curious. What is our biggest asset?
I think your biggest asset is your heart and your mind. I think being able to guard your heart and guard your mind against the things of evil that are trying to infiltrate into you so that you aren't productive, so that you aren't giving back to society, right? So for me, one of the biggest lessons and one of the things I really put a lot of focus and intentionality into was guarding my heart and my mind. So I mentioned earlier, making sure my morning routine was good. Hear me. there were a few weeks where I was doom and gloom, where I thought, is this all over? Is everything we just worked for done? I had that moment. And then I kicked myself got myself going and said, no, this isn't who we are. I will until, right? I can do this. I am a good leader. I can weather this storm. And so really shifting what I'm saying to myself, the internal words that were happening. For me, I went deeper into prayer. I'm a woman of faith and I wanted to lead my family well alongside my husband. And so we really took to prayer. Where did God want us to go? How did God want us to lead through this time? Really guarding our children's heart and mind. There is a lot of messages being thrown at us, and so we wanted to guard our home. What were our children hearing, and how were we going to react to this? Because our children are watching, whether we see it or not. They see the fear in us, or they see the hope in us, and we wanted to be the light of Jesus at that time. And so we made sure that we were saying positive things while negativity was all around us. We were leaning into what was good and what was great, and how could we overcome. And I think that's the message that I wanted to live in during the season of uncertainty. Another thing we did was the 75 hard challenge. You brought this up on a Zoom meeting, said, I think I'm going to do this. And then the whole team got on board in some capacity. And it was really great that I didn't finish, but it helped me get back in the routine. It was something like drink a gallon of water, read in the morning, get 2 exercises in. We were in a season where I thought, there's no way I'm going to get 2 workouts in a day. But when I was able to go on that walk with my kids and my husband and be able to have that time with them and have some de-stress in the afternoon when I was doing my second workout, it really helped me to get back into a consistent routine. Our routines were thrown off. Everyone's routine was thrown off. And so figuring out what our new idea of how we wanted to lead and guide our family was really important. I think the other thing too was, connecting with other doers was really important. When I think about guarding your heart and your mind, while I do have family members who maybe disagree with some of my viewpoints and things, I love them, but they weren't the voices speaking into my life. I surrounded myself with other people who were seeing opportunity, who were overcomers, who were living in hope, who were in community together. And I think that being around people who are doers helps you become a doer. It rubs off, right? When you're around people who are seeing opportunity becomes a possibility for you as well. And so I really kept myself and our family guarded around that and in a place where we could prosper.
I love that. And I really feel like I just want to encourage the Think Marketing community that to even have permission, and maybe you feel like you don't have permission to really invest in yourself with the time and the energy. I know that everybody listening to this is servant-minded, purpose-driven, and is probably a pillar of strength for your kids, for your family, for those in your life. But sometimes you can almost feel like all you do is pour out to everybody else around you. But you need to know and have permission that you are your biggest asset. Mm-hmm. Because if you're depleted, how can you pour into your marriage? If you're depleted, how can you pour into your kids? If you're depleted and running on empty, how can you put out the best content possible? So it can be hard to carve out this time. Mm-hmm. But this is something that I've been learning as somebody who likes to run a million miles an hour and sometimes just saying yes to every other task and constantly giving away. I've realized that if my mind is healthy, if my physical body, my mental strength, my spiritual health, when I am taking care of those assets, I'm better for everybody else around me. Mm-hmm. So have permission to guard your biggest asset and make sure that in 2021 that there is some intentional things you build into your life, because everyone's going to be better for it. Mm-hmm. When you rise, when you are healthy things grow. And when you stay healthy in your heart, your soul, your mind, you're going to grow the things around you. When you're healthy, you're going to grow your business. You're going to grow your marriage. You're going to grow your kids. You're going to grow your home. You're going to grow your finances. If you're in negativity thinking, you're going to grow negativity thinking. If you're in possibility thinking, even if you experience resistance, mm-hmm. it's going to be contagious. Fear is contagious. so is faith. Faith is contagious, and in getting into that place of strength in your inner man, inner woman, it's huge. And so guard your biggest asset. Heather, I love these lessons, and I want to hear from the Think Marketing community, what lesson did you learn in 2020 that others could learn from, and maybe something 2020 taught you so that you can have a better 2021? Tell us in the comments, or please leave us a review on the podcast, and maybe this episode or another episode encouraged you. Please share it. And Heather, thank you so much for the wisdom today.
iPhone 16e has the best battery life for an iPhone this size, so nothing's stopping you from getting the high score, except the stairs, benches, and rails. iPhone 16e, latest iPhone, greatest price.
Want it. It's a 4-word feminist manifesto. Because I'm worth it. I wrote that.
Well, those were my 5 lessons that I learned over 2020. It's been such a year, but I'm actually looking forward to 2021. I am definitely nervous about all the changes that are happening, but at the same time, like I said, we need to know that change is the only constant. Now, if you are new to the podcast, make sure to subscribe and share this with a friend. If you know someone who wants to grow on YouTube or is ready to start or grow their online business, we are here to help them as well. We cover everything YouTube as well as online business and all the marketing strategies that you would need to grow your business this year and beyond. Now, after you're done listening to this episode, I think your next action should be to go over and take our 1-hour free YouTube class. If you're ready to grow a business on YouTube this year, then you should watch this free 1-hour class over at thinkmasterclass.com. During this 1-hour class, you're going to learn the 3 secrets to YouTube success, how we've been able to surpass over 1 million subscribers, and how you can get views and subscribers on your channel this year with one strategy that Sean Cannell teaches. So head over to thinkmasterclass.com right now to register and get instant access to our free 1-hour YouTube class. Also, if you have not gone over to Apple iTunes and rated and reviewed this podcast, my request is that you do that sometime today. And we love to shout out our different listeners from the Think community. And today is from Vegas Kid Joe. He said, most helpful information. Sean Cannell continues to bring the most insightful and useful information for creators. I will surely be a long-time subscriber and listener. Vegas Kid Joe, thank you so much for being a part of our community. And for all of you listeners who have been here with us since the beginning, we just want to say thank you so much. You mean the world to us, and we are obsessed with your success. So let us know over on Apple iTunes when you rate and review the podcast how your channel has grown from the information that you've learned here on the podcast. Well, in our next episode, we go into the second part where Sean shares 5 lessons that he learned from 2020. You're going to want to stay tuned for that. He gets real, raw, and vulnerable, sharing some numbers and some big insights that he learned from the crazy year we just had here at Think. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Bye.
Hurry into the Nissan Now sales event to save on an award-winning new Nissan, like the all-new Kicks and Murano, J.D. Power's most dependable small and mid-size SUVs, and our best-selling Rogue at the Nissan Now sales event.
One of these people uses the new Colgate Total Active Prevention System. It's 15 times more effective at fighting the root cause of many oral health problems. As for the other guy,
Sarah? Good luck.
be dentist ready with Colgate Total.
Short end of the deal. And creators, this is probably at least for mid-sized creators, would you say?
Probably,
5-figure
yeah.
is going to be
Yeah.
10,000, or 5 figures you're doing $50,000 deals?
Probably on the higher end. However, if you and this is something I truly believe in, you don't have to be a huge creator to have a huge impact, right? I know you agree with this. There are small creators out there who are such experts in their space. Like this morning, I spoke to a tennis creator. She's not a huge creator, but she has such deep impact with tennis brands. And so just, she might have, let's say she has 10,000. I don't know, actually 10,000 on YouTube, but her impact, and she has gotten equity. So my point is, don't necessarily tie what I just said to, oh, I shouldn't think about this. No, you should be thinking about it from day one. If you're an expert who's just starting their YouTube channel, but you are a doctor or a lawyer or a mechanic or an engineer who can give advice to these startups who are starting, then you can ask for equity from day one. Don't just think because I have a small channel or I haven't been doing brand deals. Think about your position and your value to the company coming to you, wanting to work with you. If you're like my client, the tennis creator, she's a small creator, but she has so much value because she's been a tennis player for 20 years. So like, think about it that way, right? Like, what is the value you're giving to the company? Don't think I shouldn't ask for this. Ask for everything. All they can do is say no. But I think you should be thinking about equity way sooner than most creators are thinking about it.
So if we go a little bit deeper on that, we'll come back to the disclosures. I think like, this kind of makes me think of also UGC creators, and just the idea that user-generated content is a whole niche in and of itself. And you, the person, your ability to create videos, the way you look, the way you sound, your charisma, your history, and what you're saying too, your expertise. You might be day one on YouTube or social. You might have 1,000 subscribers, you're growing that up, but your depth and your expertise, what would it cost for that brand to hire you? If they hired you, they'd probably give you a 6-figure salary if you went and worked for them full time as a face, as a voice, with that level of authority. So now a small YouTube channel is worth way over 6 figures, depending on your background. And in that case, now you're able to maybe negotiate from a different perspective. Am I thinking correctly?
Totally, because we're seeing more professionals starting YouTube channels, right, who have an expertise in something. So I think I love that example you gave. Think of it as 6 figures. I tell my clients when they're about to accept equity deals that it should be cash plus equity. And the cash is basically the services you're providing. If they're asking you for 5 to 10 hours a month, equate that to what is your hourly rate. If they're wanting your expertise, if they're wanting you to, go talk to people in the tennis space or go talk to, this manufacturer, or give us advice on, as a tennis expert, like how would you figure out X, Y, and Z. This is something that they do not have information. And then you typically would pay a consultant, right? Companies pay consultants all the time for their expertise. So think of yourself as a consultant to the company, and what would you ask in that sense? So I think sometimes asking $2,000 to $5,000 a month for your expertise, depending on your level, plus equity is very fair.
If we stay on brand deals, at what point do you think it's essential to get an attorney involved? And one of your passions is helping creators earn more money. And is it your belief that most creators could also just charge more besides just equity if they understood things better, or maybe had a second opinion, an outside perspective like yours?
Chips Ahoy Baked Bites are so soft. With chocolate chips, so not a cookie.
Hello, handsome. And hello, random chair. Clean up with Apple Intelligence means goodbye, chair. iPhone 16e. Latest iPhone, greatest price.
Totally. I have a client on LinkedIn who's huge. And when I first met him, he was making probably 2 to 3 times less. And I asked him, I said, how much are you asking for your post on LinkedIn? And he said something less than 4 figures. And I said to him, you should be making 4 to 5 figures. And because of that one advice from me, he started asking for more. I think most creators just don't ask for enough money. They think, oh my goodness, someone wants to give me $500 for a video. Amazing. If you ask the brand what their budget was and how many creators are in the campaign, those 2 questions could probably help you figure out how much you should ask for. When I step into a deal, I usually 2 to 4x the original offer because I asked a bunch of questions. And I have no problem asking for more money for my clients. Now, a lot of us have trouble asking for more money for ourselves. I don't know what psychological block there is. We just feel like we're not worthy or entitled to that. I have no trouble. If someone offers you 10,000, I could say 50,000. Like, I have no trouble doing that. So if you have a manager or an attorney who can do that for you, I think that would be very helpful to just get you away from that lower, current price that you have yourself set at.
I bet 99% of creators can relate to that, including myself. I think on the one hand, I intrinsically know my value, but yet I still hedge a little bit. And that's partly the power of the third person, is just to kind of represent you and not flinch, like not kind of waffle around a little bit. So I'm like, oh, and the creator in me is also, like still hustling, still kind of maybe sometimes thinking small. You just get somebody that's objectively more disconnected from it with expertise like yourself. And it's pretty wild to think that from a little bit of difference in negotiation, that you could just instantly start charging 2 to 3 times more per brand deal, no matter what size of creator you are, simply because of understanding your value. Is there things that happen that you notice where brands, essentially how creators could avoid getting screwed over by brands because of contracts or terms or things that have happened to your clients?
I think most creators, especially younger ones, newer ones don't understand usage rights or, just whitelisting, boosting, things that are in addition. They just think, oh, I'm just giving you a video, but you don't realize what the brand takes your video and does with it. And a lot of times that part the creator gets screwed on, because they say, okay, here's $1,000, and then the brand ends up using it. They don't even realize that you can ask for usage. Usage is 10 to 30% of the base price for every 30 days. If they want control of your channel or they want to put paid ads behind you, that's something you should ask for more money. And I think a lot of creators don't even understand what those are. And sometimes brands or the agencies that they hire to manage the campaign sometimes will not pay creators. That's also something I deal with a lot for big creators, is 6-figure brand deals not getting paid. Typically the brand will pay, but they will pay the agency, and then the agency holds on to it and doesn't pay because for whatever reason, right? Bad management, but they will do this terrible Ponzi pyramid where they will pay a creator from their last paycheck, even though it wasn't the paycheck for that creator. Right. And it's a bad trickle down effect. So, and I've known a lot of creators who are not paid, and it's $500 or $1,000 or $2,000. And they think, well, what's the point? It's going to cost me that much to hire an attorney anyway. I would say that, it costs me not that much of my time to send a letter out for a lot of creators. I've done that. I've done just a one-time demand letter, and they typically pay. Sometimes they don't pay the full price, but at least you're getting something, because their sob story will be, well, we're going under or we're struggling, but here's 50%. And that's better than nothing.
It's interesting, because I think creators listening to this might not realize how common it is that maybe you could struggle getting paid from brands. Them not paying, it could be bad management. And we've learned too that good brands that usually typically end up paying, sometimes 3 months passes, 6 months passes, sometimes it's taken a year to actually get payment. There's like a French Montana and Drake song that says, hopping out the jet, Lears, don't call me till the check clears. And one of the things I've learned is that until the check clears, you don't have the money. Like, until you got the money in your bank account, you don't have the money in your bank account. And that's very hard for creator businesses that depend on, I got this great brand deal. It might be tough if you're cash strapped though for a year. And so having diversity.
Totally.
Yeah, go ahead.
And it makes me so mad, because you can't go to Best Buy and buy a TV and say, I'm going to pay you in 90 days and take the TV out. It just doesn't work that way. But yeah, creators are being asked to basically cash flow, the company sometimes for, like you said, 3, 6, 12 months. And I used to work in Hollywood, Disney, Skydance, BuzzFeed, and actors don't fly until the money is in escrow at the agencies, right? They will not get on an airplane to go on location unless that money is there. And so that is something that I would love to be able to do for creators, but that's a whole other thing that, us taking on that, or even do creators join SAG? I mean, that could be another conversation altogether, but I think there's a lot of things that need to change, and procedures need to be there. I think having advocates, I mean, I'm one person, but I do think me shouting very loudly at companies and does change their policy. There was one agency out there that was just not paying creators, and I called them out. I did call them out on LinkedIn because someone else called them out, but I was doing a deal with them currently at that moment with a big creator, and I said, if you don't pay, and actually because of what happened, I was able to ask for 50% upfront upon signature before we even started work.
Mopping is hard work. When I tried the Swiffer Power Mop, it has a built-in solution that breaks down dirt on contact. Plus, its 360-degree swivel head cleans up along baseboards and even behind the toilet. Bye-bye, bucket. The Swiffer Power Mop.
Still searching for the one? Olay Super Cream with SPF. The power of 5-in-1 Super Cream. To hydrate, smooth, brighten, firm, and protect. Skin just drinks it in to boost cells for more resilient skin. It's Super Cream. Only Olay.
Work, because I have sort of that leverage, and I can shout very loudly, and I know kind of, people in the industry that you can't do this to creators. And I'm a strong, I'm on that soapbox, shouting for creators who can't do it themselves.
This episode is brought to you by StreamYard. StreamYard is our go-to platform here at Think Media for live streaming to Facebook and YouTube, and for recording our video podcast. It has an incredibly easy-to-use interface for built-in branding, transitions, text lower thirds, and seamlessly bringing on guests. And they just added an awesome new feature called local recording. This allows you to take the quality to another level by separating out your audio and video from your guests, giving you more control over your content for later use. This feature is perfect for video and podcast creators, and so to get a special deal on StreamYard right now and to see all the features that are included, just go to streamwiththink.com. That is streamwiththink.com.
I want to go back to also usage rights to clarify. What creators don't realize is that they might do a brand deal, they get $1,000, they post a video, but in the contract, that brand took usage rights, and now they're running paid ads using your likeness and your media, and they're doing it for the next 5 years.
Or forever, Sean, right?
Forever. Yeah, and that's what I wanted to ask you, because young creators definitely know this, including myself, and you also don't even realize who you may become. Whatever, like, so you're a new creator, you're like, I just need $1,000. You can't even imagine that someday you might have a silver play button or beyond, and what might, your influence be. Let me ask you this. So if you did one of those brand deals, and then can you ever get out of it? Like if you
yes,
signed away usage rights and they're still using it, you're like, okay, it's 7 years later. My prominence is, bigger. I'm more established, and yet they're still running ads on my likeness, and maybe their product has even gone downhill. You're like, it's been so long. It was great then, and now it's different. Times have changed, but they're still just kind of milking your likeness. What's your advice here?
Or that the brand is so big now that they should be paying you. I have certainly gone back to brands and companies and renegotiated those deals, and I have been successful because they know what they did was wrong, and they know that what they did was taking advantage. And I just say to them, this is taking advantage. Do you know that story of that actor Simu, who he was on the, he's one of the actors, on the he was the dragon, in the Marvel, the Asian Marvel a movie, and when he was starting out as an actor, he was an extra, and he did this short little commercial as like corporate guy number 3 or something. And so now that company owns that stock footage and uses it everywhere. And he tried to go back and buy the stock footage back, but because he gave in perpetuity rights, he couldn't buy it back, and they were not incentivized to sell it back to him. So now they use that to run advertising, and he's a huge star now. He's a Marvel actor. That's to your point. When you're starting out as a creator, you don't think about it, but what happens in a few years if you have 1 million subscribers and you're doing big brand deals, and there's this thing floating out there, and that brand is so usage means that they can run it on their own channels, on their own websites. They can use it to basically run campaigns however they want, and it's something that I think usage rights is really important for creators to understand.
Man, that's really interesting. I do want to close the loop on the influencer marketing FTC guidelines.
Yes.
So
Let's talk about that.
disclosures, and again, I think the Kardashians were just warned, and
Actually, they were fined, Sean.
Oh, they were, okay.
He was fined, yeah. It was like 6 figures because they wanted to make an example of her. It was a crypto campaign.
Okay, and that might have. Oh, yeah. Okay, so they failed to disclose they've been paid to promote cryptocurrency investment schemes. They ended up being fined.
Yes.
So, what's your advice here?
Disclose so extensively. There are 3 ways you should, according to the FTC. You need to make sure, right, if it's on YouTube, toggle the paid promotions button. You need to say it out loud, right? This video is sponsored by X, Y, and Z. You need to have it on screen somewhere or in the descriptions. I actually maybe 4 different ways. Like, as many ways as you can disclose that you're being paid for this sponsorship, this review. What the FTC wants to be so careful about is they want the consumer, right, the viewers who are watching it, to understand that you, Sean, if you're talking about a product but you were paid for it, that's maybe going to give you a different type of review than if you were to say, I bought this with my own money. How often have you guys bought camera or whatever, and you said, we bought this because we wanted to give a neutral, our neutral opinion.
And it's a leveraged point because most people, I think there's mistrust, or you want there to be transparency, but
yes.
What level of trust can you have when you're like, and I think what a lot of people say is they say, listen, I can totally share my opinion. This was sent to me for free. Getting paid for a product review is actually something I think we either don't do it or 99% of the time we won't do it. I'm like, there's no such thing as getting paid for a product review. Getting a free, there is such a thing, but I'm like, I just, now I'm incentivized because I'm getting money. If I get the product free with no holds bar, right? Like, hey, I can say whatever I want. All they did was send us a review unit and listen, here's my thoughts.
Yep.
I like that. And then the point is to disclose it, right?
Yes. And that's a great point. Even if it's free, you can say, I think there's hashtag gifted or hashtag free, and just as long as they understand that you got it, because sometimes even free is a gift, and the FTC just wants the viewer to understand, how did you get this product, and so they understand your motivations. And it's harder, I think, when it's paid or gifted, to give maybe a neutral opinion about it. That's really my opinion. So
there's probably 3 levels. If you got paid money to review it, that's like the least bias. If you got it free, but you maybe get I trust a lot of creators because they're like a tech review factory. They just get lots of headphones sent to them, lots of cameras sent to them, and they develop maybe a level of trust in their opinion. But they certainly, I think then that 3rd level is the highest level. When a creator jumps on and goes, so the camera I decided to purchase,
right,
which might also be like, hey, out of everything, this is what I spent my own money on, or I did buy this myself regardless, and I don't love it, or I do love it. So that's interesting.
iPhone 16e has the best battery life for an iPhone this size, so nothing's stopping you from getting the high score, except the stairs, benches, and rails. iPhone 16e, latest iPhone, greatest price.
Chips Ahoy Baked Bites are so soft. With chocolate chips. So not a cookie. So irresistibly good.
I don't love it or I do love it. So that's interesting. Keep going.
So disclose everywhere. I would say over disclose. Now I understand a lot of times creators don't want to do that because they think, oh, it's like annoying or it's too much information. But I would say the FTC is cracking down on creators. And I think the example you mentioned with Kim Kardashian is a good one. They're realizing, I think the FTC is realizing how much money is going into the creator marketing space. And they want to make sure that people are disclosing that they are getting paid sponsorships or that they're investors, right? Or or they're getting equity, even that they're somehow an owner in the business, because that also will skew, right, their opinion about the product. If you know that Alex Earl is now a part owner in Poppy, you might think, well, no wonder she likes Poppy so much. She owns part of it. I don't know, right? I'm making that up, but you know what I'm saying. She might really like Poppy, but you do. The FTC just wants the consumer, the buyer, to have all the information before they decide to buy something.
Yeah, and if I'm looking this up right now, it was 2023 that they had updated endorsement guides, clear and conspicuous. Clear, easy to understand. It should be obvious to the audience that the endorser has a relationship with the brand. Conspicuous, difficult to miss. The disclosure should not be placed where it should be placed where people are likely to see it. So you might put it at the top of the description, which is where we do at Think Media. We'll say, like, earns commissions from affiliate links. We'll say this video is not capital NOT sponsored to actually, to at least frame it, like, just to be clear, this video is not sponsored. We'll use affiliate links pretty much all the time, right? If it's a book or whatever, so we disclose that. So you don't want to bury it. Conspicuous would be not hidden, but put it difficult to miss. And then they say being paid by the brand, getting free products or services from the brand, having a family or employment relationship with the brand, owning stock from the brand. When it comes to affiliate marketing, or when it comes to the YouTube box where it says includes paid promotion, if you purchase a product, which we buy lots of stuff off Amazon ourselves without a brand deal to review or to include in a video. And the video is not sponsored. We're not getting paid. We purchase the products ourselves. And we will verbally say, and hey, if you want to check out any of this stuff, there's links in the description down below. Those are our affiliate links, which means we earn commissions or might earn commissions. Would we be okay not checking that YouTube box, or do you think that we just always should?
That's a great question, and I actually will not answer it because I don't know the answer. I need to go actually look at the kind of terms and service about that, because affiliate marketing is, I think, different in terms of what a paid promotion is, because Amazon is not paying you anything. That's what a paid promotion is.
Yeah, not up front.
Right.
Yeah.
But they haven't paid you. They haven't sent you a product. You decide to use the product and then put a link to it. I'd like to actually do a little more research. I will never say something I don't exactly know. So I want to check on that, but I don't think you need to. And I do want to answer your question about bearing the hashtags. Yes, always have it at the beginning of your description. It should be visible when they're looking at, before you click on the more, like it should be in the beginning of your description, because the FTC just wants to know that you are disclosing it to your audience and the audience gets to see it right away, that it's not buried. And I love that you have the not promote. This is not promoted. I think what people have to realize, creators have to realize, is FTC is coming for creators. They're realizing how much money is in this space and they want to start making an example. And as we saw from the FTX situation, a lot of creators got sued because of what happened there. And the FTC wants creators to disclose, but also maybe even do some due diligence. If you're promoting a financial product like crypto, like, I think that's why those fines are so huge. And that's why the FTC came after the creators, was because finance is so regulated, and it's people's money. It's people's entire life savings. It could bankrupt people. So they take that very, very seriously, especially when it comes to finance products.
If we go into that, I mean, this is a massive thing. CoffeeZilla is covering Logan Paul, and he's covering, he specializes really in a lot of crypto. Andrew Tate has said he wouldn't promote any crypto projects, yet has promoted many, and now is pushing one of his own. And we are seeing a lot of influencers scamming their fans through crypto, a lot of finance influencers, perhaps. Ignorance is not an excuse, but early on with FTX kind of fooled a lot of people, and Sam Bankman-Fried, it seemed like the best thing in town, and yet a lot of people got screwed over on that. And there's all kinds of stuff in this space in regards to giving financial advice about stocks and things pumping up like GameStop and Bed Bath and Beyond. And there's just so much happening here. What should creators know about this crypto space from your perspective? What are the dangers if you're a content creator talking about crypto finance? And how can the creators also just stay safe so they don't get scammed or sucked into this stuff?
I want to say don't do it, but I know that's maybe too strict. I think crypto endorsements are really tricky, because you always have a chance that one of the crypto companies that you're endorsing is going to scam its buyers, its users. I know that there are a handful of kind of the legitimate ones, the bigger ones, and I will disclaim this by saying I don't own any crypto. I'm not an expert in crypto. There may be even crypto people who can speak better than I can, but I think you just have to be careful with any endorsement that you do. To actually do some research, ask around, maybe ask other finance creators if you're one. Hey, what do you think about this product? I saw that you did an endorsement. Maybe that's it too, right? It is seeing who else has done endorsements and talking to them, and just doing a little bit of homework before you just decide to take a paycheck. Not a paycheck, like a check from a brand. Because they're offering it. And I think a lot of creators are smart. A lot of creators, when they get those very funky looking emails, will know, is this a real brand deal? Is this a fake brand? Is this a scam? I think a lot of creators also say no to brands because they're a little scared. I mean, I certainly have clients who do that, who I'm surprised they will say no. I will bring in, I manage about 30 creators. I bring brand deals to them, and some of them will just say, no, I don't want to do that. Like sometimes it's insurance, and it happens to be a big creator. Let's say it's a food creator. And she says, do I want to sell insurance? It is a paycheck, but what's a great piece of advice I love giving to my clients and creators is ask your audience, what products do you love? And then you can go show the brand, look, my audience loves you. Can we do a partnership? And then actually do that brand deal. And then your audience is blown away because you actually listen to them. That has been very successful for a lot of my clients, is to ask your audience, what products do you guys love right now? I'd love to check some out. And then that would maybe make sense. And it could be something not in their niche. And so that's, I think, something that's very powerful.
Why is it so good?
Buttery, salty.
Don't tell anyone I like it.
Before you go to extremes to fix sagging and wrinkles with expensive injections, try this Olay Regenerist. Olay boosts skin cell regeneration to firm, lift, and reshape volume without painful prices. For me, it's only Olay.
As a super powerful tip, right as we're landing the plane of the podcast, you got to listen to this whole episode because it's packed with so much value. But Tyler, I already, again, I'm only halfway through my questions. And so
we will get you on the calendar again. I want you to shout out your stuff in just a second. And I have one final question for you. But listeners, thanks for listening to this episode. And I did my best to actually run all of last 400 comments so far on part 1, which will be linked up in the show notes. I ran it through Google Gemini to kind of summarize some themes. And I want to continue to listen to our Think Media podcast listeners and pass those questions along to you. So if you listen on audio, visit the YouTube version, drop in the comments on YouTube. What questions do you have about this stuff? What other topics would be helpful to cover in the future? And definitely subscribe for future episodes of the Think Media podcast, for growing your channel, getting more views, but also for staying safe and building real legacy and a solid business on solid ground. And Tyler, just acknowledge you for so much value. Now, let us know, what are some of the things you have going on? You've got communities, you've got resources. We'll make sure it's all itemized in the show notes, but shout out where people can connect with you for more.
So you can find me on my YouTube channel called Tyler Chow, the Creator's Attorney. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I'm actually writing on there several times a week. I try to write every day, and just kind of everything we cover today, I do on LinkedIn. I am starting a community, and I think really based on our last conversation, Sean, it's shown me that creators really do need a space where they can come get legal advice, that they can maybe talk to other creators as they're starting out or even further along in their journey. And I think I'm going to launch I'm going to open it up. I think I'm going to have a Black Friday sale. So if you join then, it'll be at a discounted rate. But I'm probably going to launch it in either December or January. It's going to be on Mighty Networks, and it will feature myself live probably twice a month. We'll have just a huge Q&A for creators to come in. One of my clients, Jenny Hoyas, will probably, some of my clients will come on and answer questions. Cassandra Bankston's another client on, how to grow your channel, questions, brand deals, different things. And I really think that creators should diversify their ways of making money. And launching a product. I'm actually helping one creator launch a cereal right now, and another one do press-on nails. Like, I'm just getting to be an expert in all these different things. So I'll cover kind of in those 12 months with me in my community how to launch a product and how to do different things to make money. Like, I'm being the guinea pig. I'm doing the community to see, like, this is a good idea. Capture your email list. I think that's so important. Start asking your audience for their emails, and do affiliates. I mean, I think, Sean, you're really good at that. I'm just starting to do that. One of the products I really love right now is called High Level. It's a CRM. It's a system that it's replaced my Calendly, my DocuSign. It sends out mass SMS for your YouTube and Instagram audience, and I've been using it and I love it. And so check them out. We can hopefully have the links down below, but I will have the wait list for my community. I'll share that with you, Sean, and maybe you can put in the description. That would be great. Because I think it's something that a lot of people are asking for, and you'll be able to buy templates from me as well, like independent contractors, employee, NDAs, anything. I'm very much, hey, Tyler, I need this as a creator, and I will really think about making that for you, because this is my life's mission, is to protect creators and grow you guys all to be 7-figure creators.
Well, we'll make sure that all of that is in the show notes. One short answer to the final question. What do you think is the right mindset for creators in 2025? Or what is the mindset going into the opportunity, but also maybe how they could navigate in terms of seizing the opportunity and staying safe in the creator economy in 2025?
I think 2025 will be a huge year for creators. I think there's just so much focus. I mean, I was at the Forbes and Walmart upfronts this week. I mean, the huge brand is wanting to just work with creators. There were probably 50 creators who were brought in to kind of introduce themselves, and it was electrifying. And all this money is pouring in, private equity funds, Hollywood, like traditional. I had a conversation yesterday with one of the, like, this huge studio owner who wants to know how to start a YouTube channel. I mean, it blew me away. I mean, he's a dad at my son's school, but he was like, I was sharing with him what I was doing. He's like, oh my God, I have to buy you lunch because I want to find out how to start a YouTube channel. I mean, he has such an established brand. If I said his name, you would lose your mind, but I'm going to not. And he's the biggest horror producer out there. I'll just leave it at that. And this is where everyone is looking. Everyone wants to become creators. So if you already started your YouTube channel, you're already ahead of all of these people who want to become creators. All the tech people who've been laid off, all the kids, all the teenagers, all of the traditional TV and film people who are out of work right now because film and TV is drastically been slashed with production. They all want to come into the YouTube space because, like I said, it's the American dream. Where else can you make a video and millions of people can see it immediately? There's nowhere else. And so I think be excited, realize that you're in the right place. Sean and Think Media is such an amazing resource for you as you're starting. So I'm so excited for all the creators who are listening.
Future is bright for the creator economy. In the creator economy, like, rate, review, subscribe for future episodes. My name is Sean Cannell, your guide to building a profitable YouTube channel, and this is the Think Media Podcast. We'll catch you in the next one.
iPhone 16e has a durable design and ceramic shield because the average person drops their phone 208 times a year. Make that 209 once they see the price. iPhone 16e, latest iPhone, greatest price.
12 grams of protein in every serving. Quaker Protein Instant Oatmeal is there for active mornings, friendly competition, and big moves. Quaker, bring out the good.
Many people lost their channels and they can't get it back.
Copyright law, fair use, online defamation, harassment. What are the legal things that creators need to know?
Like saying, ew, gross, that's not transforming a video. Really transforming a video is something different. Whoever's content you're using, they can come and claim it and strike you.
And what is fair use and how do you do it the right way?
You know, when I tell clients who are creators who want to use clips, I say,
what are some of the most common legal mistakes creators make?
I mean, there's so many things, we can talk about. Those are things that they can put contracts in place to protect you.
Today, we've got Tyler Chow, who's the creator's attorney, formerly a Hollywood attorney, and her YouTube channel is crushing it. You got to check it out with lots of insights into these legal issues. But besides all of her expertise in these legal areas, she also helps creators charge 3 to 6x more for brand deals, productize and really scale their creator businesses. So if you're brand new or you're more advanced, I think this conversation is going to be incredibly juicy. Tyler, welcome to the show.
Sean, thank you so much for having me. I am so honored. I mean, I've watched so many of your videos when I was starting my YouTube channel, so this is sort of a dream come true for me.
Well, I appreciate your kind words, and thank you for adding so much value today. We actually surveyed our audience on both channels, Think Media and Think Media Podcast, and also got some questions, and so I'm excited to have this conversation. But let's just kick it off. What are some of the most common legal mistakes creators make? Some of just kind of the lowest hanging fruit things people need to know that could help them be a little bit safer.
Well, you hinted at it. I mean, creators should really think of themselves as a business. Do you have an LLC? Do you have trademarks? Do you have general liability insurance? If you have editors, even if they're independent contractors, do you have them under contract? Because if you don't have something that says, everything you create for me is owned by me, the results and proceeds are owned by me. If you have a falling out with that editor and they leave with your content, they could say, oh no, but that's mine, or I learned some editing style, like some secret, thing that you do, and they take it with them. If you don't have a piece of paper that says that they can't take that with them, then it's just a world of hurt, in terms of who owns it. I've had clients who have this happen to them where editors leave and they say, oh no, or they try to claim ownership of the channel by saying, oh no, but I made you. I edited from day one. And so those are things that I can put bumpers around. You hire an attorney, they can put contracts in place to protect you. So those are sort of kind of like the low hanging fruit. I mean, there's so many things, you know, we can talk about defamation insurance. Like if you have, you know, any kind of reaction channel, or you even give reviews, right? Like even if you're reviewing products, you could potentially get sued for defamation if you hurt, you know, we've seen this, right? Like I don't want to name who they are, but they give reviews and it totally tanks a huge product. And then you're like, wow, you just killed millions of dollars for us. Now what? You know, do they go after that creator? They could, maybe, if it's not truthful.
So let's unpack some of this. Let's go with the LLC thing first.
Okay.
What would your advice be if a creator's further along? They might be it's overdue. Like they've got some editors for them. They don't have the right contracts with those editors. They're just operating off of no entity, just their social security number if they're in the US. So they have like no protection. Like for sure they need to probably set up an LLC. But let's talk about like a brand new creator or a small creator. They're going to be editing themselves. They're doing it as a hobby. They're hustling and just kind of like trying to get monetized, or they're at a stage where a few $100 are coming in a month from ad revenue, a few $100 a month are coming in from affiliates. Like, what's that stage that you recommend someone start an LLC and think that way if it's still kind of a hobby and it hasn't crossed that threshold? Or do you think for protection, it's almost a day one thing they would need?
Jen loved her Gain flings. Then Brad showed up with Gain rinse and beads. As they mixed their scents, they discovered they were scent mates. Smells like it's gonna last. Mix, match, more happy with Gain.
The most sacred thing in life isn't the path. It's the freedom to choose it. Freedom is the roar of one man's engine and the silence of another's. So choose, but choose wisely. Choose what makes you happy. My friends, my family, my work make me happy. This Jeep makes me happy, even though my name is Thorn.
This is how I usually calculate it. I will ask, right? Even a young creator, do you own a house? Do you have a 401k? Like, do you currently work and you own assets, right? If you own assets, then you should think about it from day one. Now, if you're a young person, and you don't own anything and you're really only making a couple $100, I really think the kind of threshold is like $2,000, because I think to do an LLC, it costs maybe $500 to $1,000. If you do it properly with an attorney, you could do it yourself. By the way, you could file it for a couple $100 by yourself if you're wanting to just go on. I'm in California, California Secretary of State. You could just do it. The one other thing that I forgot to mention that's tied to the LLC is you need to pay taxes. I'm really, really worried about so many creators out there who are making a ton of money. They're like, oh my God, this is amazing. I get to keep all this cash. You don't get to keep that. That's just delayed and sometimes delayed with penalty. So that is also another thing that I really recommend is having a good CPA. And that's a big request. The biggest requests I get right now are referrals to CPAs and insurance brokers for media insurance, because of what's happening with CoffeeZilla right now, getting sued by Logan Paul and his defamation, his errors omissions, which is also called media insurance. He went and bought it a few years ago, thought he had defamation coverage because that's literally what he does, right? He needs that coverage because he's always talking about other people and bad actors. He got sued. He tendered it to his insurance company and they said, oh, but you don't have defamation coverage. His broker completely failed him because he didn't get him the proper insurance. So I think, does that answer your question? I mean, the LLC is like, if you're making some money, because here's the reason for an LLC. It's to protect your assets, right? So if you get sued and you have an LLC, it only touches the assets that are in the LLC. which is usually not very much, right? It's maybe some cash flow. Sometimes it's a few $1,000s. But if you own a home or you have a 401k or maybe your parents left you, real estate, those all can be touched in a lawsuit. If someone sues you, they're going to come after those assets. And so do you want it kind of protected behind this veil that the LLC provides for you?
So let's unpack a couple things deeper. So I love the LLC advice. If you're sitting on assets, you definitely need it. Or if you get to around $2,000 a month, sure, give or take, definitely get some professionalization to your creator business, your online business, get an LLC set up. And then you might want to consider insurance. You mentioned the CoffeeZilla story. Maybe take a few steps back to just frame the context of what happened and how you're pulling principles out of that we can learn from in regards to protecting ourselves with insurance, defamation, things like that.
Sure. So a couple years ago, Logan Paul launched this product called CryptoZoo, and it was supposed to be like sort of a game that you could play and you could hatch eggs and the eggs would give you money, and it sounded really cool. But as more and more time went by, it's just never launched. So millions of people lost millions of dollars, right, giving him money. And it's a volume proposition. Probably each person was like 500 or 1,000, and it just ballooned into this huge amount. CoffeeZilla, is an investigative YouTuber, and he does these kind of very big, very in-depth investigations that take months. He interviews everybody. He's very thorough. He's very, very precise because he doesn't want to say something that's not true, because truth is a defense in defamation. So Logan Paul even came out and said, "Oh, thank you so much for bringing this to my attention. I'm definitely going to refund people. I'm still going to launch the game." It's a year and a half, almost 2 years later, the game is still not launched. So CoffeeZilla, I think he left it alone, and then Logan Paul filed a complaint. And this is what he did. He filed in federal court, which does not allow for anti-slap motions. So anti-slap motions say that, public figures, if they get sued, right, they have less protection, right, because they're a public figure. They don't have the same rights of privacy that, like our family members, right? Like my husband would have much more right to privacy than I would, right, because I'm on camera, I speak out of different places. But a really famous person has less protection. So anti-slap motions were basically put into place so that people, their freedom of speech would be protected, that they could bring things against famous people and not, worry about getting in trouble. Anyway, if he had filed in state law, CoffeeZilla could have filed an anti-slap motion and said, "I have my freedom of speech. I can say these things about you that are true, right? That they're not untrue." And he could have gotten
my natural hair, but not what hoodies were doing to it. So I made my own. Chase and Philly helps my business grow one hoodie at a time.
Get financial guidance from bankers in your community and convenient digital tools all in one place. Chase for Business. Make more of what's yours.
dismissed. But because it's in federal courts don't have anti-slap motion. And Logan Paul has very deep pockets. As we know, Prime has done very well. I mean, it's gone up and down, right? Maybe not so well now, but it'll probably do better now that they launched Lunchly. But I think, and so CoffeeZilla went to his insurance and said, "Okay, I have this defamation claim. Protect me. Pay for my attorneys." And they're like, "No, you don't have defamation coverage." So now CoffeeZilla is going to have to probably pay 6 to 7 figures in legal fees because it's very expensive to defend yourself. It's very cheap to file a complaint in the US, and that's the beauty and nightmare of living here. You can sue and be sued by anybody. And so I think this is a cautionary tale as to why you should have media insurance. Make sure that it covers defamation. I mean, I actually am, if I have advised 2 clients this week talking to them about defamation because they are big channels and they do reaction videos. And reaction videos are really interesting because people think, well, it's fine, right? But it's really not fine. I mean, YouTube will allow copyright strikes if you use someone else's video, and YouTube just doesn't get involved. They have you figure it out, right? So I could put it, anybody could put a copyright strike on you, and then you have to go figure out what to do with that person that put the strike so that you can get it removed. I mean, we're getting off topic, but so that's kind of why every reaction channel or people who do reviews should have media insurance.
This is especially relevant if you're talking about other people, which is a huge niche. Reaction videos, people reacting or talking about celebrities or in all kinds of different niches. And one of the things that maybe they pick up on the street is like, well, if I say allegedly, then I'm all good. Is it enough to just say allegedly? And sometimes they're like, they'll put it on visual on the screen, Dogpack 404 talking about Mr. Beast. Of course, is going to throw in allegedly. Is it allegedly enough?
I don't know about enough, but it helps. I say allegedly a lot as an attorney, until it's been proven in a court of law and by a jury or judge, like you can't really say this person is X, Y, and Z. You can always say it's my opinion, right? That also helps. But I always tell my clients, try to stay with the truth. If you really stay with the truth, then if you do end up getting sued or go to court, then that's your protection, right? This applies to fair use, right? People will just slap fair use on videos thinking, oh, I can use this person's video because I put fair use on it. But actually, fair use is a defense in litigation. Like when you get sued, you can try to explain it, but fair use is very complicated. There are so many elements to it. It usually has to be educational. It can be a satire. It really has to, you can't make money from it, which is a hard case for most YouTubers because their videos typically, if they're monetized, makes them money. And so that's a hard defense to have, right? Unless, and I think maybe that's why Dogpack allegedly states that his videos are not monetized, right? Like he's turned off monetization. But I know there are tools out there that can check, but maybe that's why he turned off monetization as well, because he wants to use that as a defense.
Well, I know that this conversation can evolve. I do want to talk about copyright and fair use more, but if we're now talking about insurance, and depending on your niche, even if you're a tech reviewer or a product reviewer of any kind, there's the case of MKBHD talking about this, I think, Rabbit AI tool or whatnot.
Yes, that was what I was hinting at. I didn't want to call him out, but yes, that was what I was talking about.
And his honest review, truthful review, may or may not have tanked the product. There was also many other reviews. He's just, by and large, the largest creator probably speaking on it. So that speaks into if depending on the size of your channel, and that's I think some creators might be thinking about that. They're like, well, I'm not MKB PhD, I'm not CoffeeZilla. They have the same CoffeeZilla niche, let's say. They're reacting, calling out scams, or they're doing something like that. Or they have a tech channel, or they're doing some other product reviews, health products, other things. You want to be thinking about some right insurances, including defamation, again, at almost any size of channel?
I think so. I mean, I think there are channels out there that probably don't have to worry about it, right? Like, I could imagine there's some drawing channels or like bullet journal, like very kind of neutral things I feel like are fine. I don't tell everybody to get media insurance. I really have to kind of look at their content and their channel. And I think the advantage of also being a creator myself is I understand this business really well. It reminds me, I need to tell you my Taylor Swift story in a little bit. I had a client come to me wanting to do a Taylor Swift thing. So maybe we can loop back to it.
I'll go back. I made a note.
But yeah, but I think there are certainly channels that don't need it. I think you need general liability because general liability is just, and it's cheap. General liability is maybe $1,000 a month. I mean, a year, like depending on what state you're in, but it's very easy for most creators to have that. Media insurance, I think, gets to be a little more. Maybe it's a couple thousand. But if you rise to the level where you are giving reviews on products or talking about other people, then really think about it. I bet you most of the bigger channels out there have it, but it's sort of a case by case, right? Like if you could be a small channel. I mean, I have clients who have like 100,000 or 200,000, but they're making six or seven figures a year doing other stuff. They have courses, they have products, like depending on what size your business is, because the bigger you get, you just have a target on your back, right? Like people, you're going to upset people, there might be people in your audience who don't like what you say or what you do or what you stand for, any of that stuff, and they can come after you to try to cancel you or sue you.
Hello, handsome. And hello, random chair. Clean up with Apple Intelligence means goodbye, chair. iPhone 16e. Latest iPhone, greatest price.
And so, just landing the plane on this conversation related to CoffeeZilla, it's actually surprising to me. I totally understand how his broker didn't just fail. His broker terribly failed, because defamation insurance or media insurance would be like the most important thing, knowing CoffeeZilla's work. If he had the right insurance, then the insurance would cover the 6 to 7 figures, the potentially $1 million in legal fees that is going to happen in this situation. Right, insurance would cover it. And
well, there's always an asterisk, right? Insurance tries to not cover, like that's literally their business model, right? But if they do a evaluation and CoffeeZilla didn't do anything terribly egregious or grossly negligent on his part, right, where he like maliciously knew what he was saying was wrong, right? Like that's one of the elements that they have to prove with defamation, was like, did he maliciously say untruths about Logan Paul, which I don't think is there, then they would have to cover it. Now, there might be a deductible, like could there be a $50,000 deductible or something, like, before they will start covering, or 100,000, I don't know. Like every policy is so different, but because I used to work at Disney and Skydance and BuzzFeed, I had to review very, very big policies for media insurance. And so I kind of understand the scope of it. He has a claim against his broker. I think he's suing him. I think CoffeeZilla said in one of his videos, like he has a smaller channel right now called Voidzilla. And so I think he talked about how he's suing his broker.
And rightly so, because again, if you pay a $50,000 deductible, but for $1 million of legal fees, like you're going to be pumped to do that all day long. And I did see him launch merch to help his community rally. And and in this situation, I think this is sometimes what might frustrate listeners and the public in general, is that when you're a giant, if you're Logan Paul or you're Mr. Beast, you have so much money and so much legal behind you, even if, right, and you're the expert, but even noticing how meticulous and scrupulous CoffeeZilla is and what he does or doesn't say and how he says it, like to your point, even if the end result is his innocence and his freedom from it, he was drugged through potentially $1 million of cost in the process, simply because of the opponent he's up against in this case. Correct? And so that's sort of maybe the fear out there, and the reason for the insurance, because you maybe would be shocked that some tech company gets upset because your product review went viral. And even though if you are still vindicated, ultimately you could face a lot of expense in the middle should this happen. Am I tracking?
Oh, totally. I mean, and it's sort of the reason why I left Hollywood to come protect creators, because big companies, big celebrities with deep pockets will always usually win, because they will just drown you in legal fees, right? And I've had clients who were completely innocent, right? Like the facts weren't even remotely there, but they had to pay $100,000 in legal fees just to get out and file for bankruptcy, right? Like that was actually the real reason they got out, was because they filed for bankruptcy, and so to show the court that there was nothing left to get. And those types of cases and clients break my heart, and it's why I'm such a strong advocate to getting kind of these really kind of minor, when you think about it, right? I know for most creators are cost sensitive, like $1,000 or $2,000, they're like, whoa, but like it's just the in case, right? Like in case it goes wrong, Are you willing to have $600,000 or six or seven figures of legal fees? I mean, I told a client this week who's launching a big product, I said, you better put a legal fund aside because we're going to get sued. But it's okay, right? Because if you're doing big business, you're going to get sued. I used to work at a private equity fund, and we used to get sued a lot, and I would get stressed out because I was a head attorney, and my boss was like, why are you so stressed? And it's because we have like 7 or 8 open litigations against us. And he would say, well, if you're not getting sued, then you're not doing big business. And I think Jimmy is showing us that right now, right? He's a $700 million corporation, and he's getting sued left and right.
That's a whole nother mindset. If you're not getting sued, you're not doing big business. Before we move on, just going a little bit deeper in defamation, let's flip it. Okay. I know, and I've talked to in different masterminds of business groups that I'm in, that what if you're in the position of a former employee, or we've seen in different organizations, I think they said it was amicable. I don't think there was any legal things between, say, Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens. But we've seen where maybe like a talent leaves or something. What if a former employee like makes a video or makes statements with lies and half truths about the company that they worked for? What would your advice be in regards to defamation or just ignoring it and moving on? I heard you say that Mr. Beast in your video will probably release a statement. To my knowledge, he has not yet. And I just wonder, and some people go, Mr. Beast's downfall is here because Dogpack has gotten maybe over 20 million views, if not more now. But compared to Mr. Beast's influence, you're like, yeah, that's a lot. And it is crazy. And among some circles, it's like, no, yeah, millions of people could be, Mr. Beast is exposed, like his true colors are out there. Perhaps, like maybe that's what we're seeing. But then when we think about the scale he's at, could he just ignore this? And so that's one case study, but maybe for the different size of a media company or something, you have like maybe a former employee make a YouTube video, which anybody could do now. Lots of BuzzFeed people did with lies and half truths. What would you maybe follow up with on that or advice regarding defamation?
Wow, this is a great question. I actually was writing a LinkedIn post about this. I have this great saying that I like to say, if I do my job properly, you guys will never hear about this. So I do a lot of PR crisis management for YouTubers. This year, I've worked on 2 big ones, and you guys never heard about it because I tell my clients, no comment is an okay answer. Now,
Gatorade Zero. All the electrolytes of Gatorade with 0 sugar to rehydrate and replenish. So your return is as good as your service.
Women deserve quality period care. There's a lot of love that goes into this as well.
Now, most creators are like, oh my God, I have to make a video. I have to respond. I have to tell my side of the story. But here's the thing, YouTube has a very short memory. They're like guppies, right? Like, as you can see with Logan Paul, I mean, how many times has Logan Paul been canceled? But he just keeps coming back like a zombie that cannot be killed, right? That's true. He just keeps coming back. And I said in my video, I said, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't say anything. It's really dependent on his team, right? His legal team and his PR team. I think the reason why he didn't come out with a statement was probably they knew this class action or some lawsuit was coming. And once you're in the crosshairs of litigation, you shouldn't say anything because anything you say can get used in a court of law, right? So I would say to go back to your question, right, about, well, what if an employee does this? And so there are two paths. Like you can go after the employee, send a cease and desist, like Jimmy did with Dogpack. They can ignore it and then just keep doing it. And then your other alternative is to sue him, right? But I said in a short video, I said, Jimmy will not sue him. Because you know why? Because Discovery releases information on both sides. Like, imagine the emails that are in Mr. Beast's company. The things that they have said, the things that they have done, all of that will get exposed as dirty laundry. So he's not going to sue Dogpack because he doesn't want that to come out. He's going to just leave it alone. he's going to hope it dies down. It was starting to die down until this class action came up, right? And I have a hot take on that class action, actually. But I think it'll die down again. I think people just always latch on to some big news. Some other creator is going to, do something terrible. They're going to come out with some terrible apology video. Something else is going to take their attention away. And this is the case in Hollywood as well. I mean, you look at Blake Lively kind of getting canceled. She hasn't come out and given a response. When I worked in Hollywood, it was always no comment. We just don't respond and we just move on. And that's what I believe will happen here. So if I was, I guess, advising a company that was dealing with kind of the same situation, and by the way, my big creator clients are companies, right? Right after the whole thing with Dogpack, I had a big client who was exiting an employee, and they said, "Well, we need a severance agreement and a waiver of all claims," which is what I wanted in place. And in that agreement, in the non-disparagement provision, I made sure to add the word video. It wasn't there before, but I added there because now I'm thinking, wow, all these ex-employees who leave YouTubers, they're all going to do what Dogpack is doing. So I tell my clients this: do good business, treat people well. Don't do stupid things. If you don't want it to get out in the public and be sued one day, then just be a good person. That's really my advice to my clients. Did that answer your question?
It did. And in summary, it might be one, if there is a kind of a transition, consider the exit in regards to severance, disparagement, those details. Previous to that, do good business, take care of people. Of course, realizing that even if you do that, people can do shady stuff on the side, and so you're doing your best, and then, but with that, of course, have a healthy company culture. And it seems like a lot of light was shined inside of Mr. Beast's business, allegedly, that might not have been a super healthy culture over there in certain aspects. But then also, lastly, that no comment is also perhaps the way to lean, especially maybe in smaller situations. I heard a guy named Alex Hermosi also talk about that. As you're growing and you have a target on your back, that there's going to be people making videos about you or making different things. And he said he responds, if they're smaller, he's not going to talk, he's not going to respond, because it would be outrageous for Mr. Beast to also make a video. He would shine so much light on Dogpack, and an incredible amount. So Dogpack got 20 million views or more. If Mr. Beast made a video, that would be 200 million, and the whole algorithm would spin it up. So no comment might be the best policy.
Yes, I totally agree.
This episode is brought to you by StreamYard. StreamYard is our go-to platform here at Think Media for live streaming to Facebook and YouTube, and for recording our video podcast. It has an incredibly easy-to-use interface for built-in branding, transitions, text lower thirds, and seamlessly bringing on guests. And they just added an awesome new feature called local recording. This allows you to take the quality to another level by separating out your audio and video from your guests, giving you more control over your content for later use. This feature is perfect for video and podcast creators, and so to get a special deal on StreamYard right now and to see all the features that are included, just go to streamwiththink.com. That is streamwiththink.com.
iPhone 16e has the best battery life for an iPhone this size, so nothing's stopping you from getting the high score, except the stairs, benches, and rails. iPhone 16e, the latest iPhone, greatest price.
Easing irritation and restoring smooth, healthy skin. Aquaphor Healing Ointment isn't just for one thing. It's Aquaphor so many things. From the #1 dermatologist recommended brand for dry, cracked skin, there's Before, and then there's Aquaphor.
A hot take. There is a class action lawsuit from some individuals that were part of the Mr. Beast games, which is an Amazon production at that level with a multi-million-dollar prize, and it's a huge project, and there's already so much smoke around Mr. Beast regarding Ava Chris Tyson and Dogpack, and now this. What's your hot take?
So, I even had the hook to my YouTube video. It was going to be like, is this the end of Mr. Beast? And I was going to say, yes, maybe. Yes, right? But after reading the complaint, I'm not so sure. And I am the only, I think I'm the only YouTube attorney who can sort of make this conclusion, because I've worked in Hollywood for 16 years. I've been the lead attorney on 22 feature films, many TV shows. When we put an actor or a crew member under contract, we don't call them employees. They are independent contractors. There's no world where they are an employee of the studio, right? Or the network. So for these plaintiffs to claim that they are employees and therefore they're allowed to do this class action, because the reason why they're doing employment claims is because they want this class action. But I don't think it's there. I really don't think it's there. And I was shocked. I was reading the complaint actually last night, and I was like, darn it, because there goes my video. Because I was gonna have some very outrageous, oh my God, he's going to really be taken down with this huge class action. But I don't know. And again, this is my opinion, but we don't know how it's gonna pan out. But there might be a situation where this gets thrown out or it gets settled somehow. It probably will get settled. At the end of the day, 90% of cases never go to trial. They always get settled. Mr. Beast is going to throw a lot of money at this, and it's going to, or Amazon, actually. Amazon, I believe, is probably more responsible here. Do you remember the story, when Netflix and Amazon were both courting Mr. Beast, wanting him to do a show with them? And the reason why Amazon won was because they agreed to give him free reign, 100% creative and production control. Netflix was like, no, we need to be, in charge. I'm sure Netflix is patting themselves on the back right now. But Amazon gave him too much free reign. And the biggest question I had was, why was a lawsuit even filed? Do you know that in most production agreements for studios, there's a mandatory arbitration provision in there? So it makes me think this was Mr. Beast's production contract and not Amazon's. So a lot of people fell asleep at the wheel here when they were putting this together. I think they thought, oh, this is going to be like one of Mr. Beast's videos, and we're gonna function and go at it with those, processes in place. But when you have 1,000 or 2,000 contestants, and this is a $5 million, prize, $100 million budget, you can't think in the same way.
Yeah, it does seem like the scale of what is allegedly been described as working at Mr. Beast, that's friends and family at mid-leadership levels and a little bit of chaos, that they went to a scale with that really broke down so people aren't getting water or tampons or the things that they need. And as much as people also want to vilify Mr. Beast, I do think he's going crazy fast. But, his intent, I'm not thinking is for this to happen, but you're at a scale that just broke down.
Yes.
Saying that, I just want to clarify, you said mandatory arbitration would have been in there, hoping to just follow and define terms. So it also seems crazy at his level. That it also speaks to he was maybe punching even above his weight class, which is a pretty big weight class. To, if it was a Mr. Beast production, to be missing that. What does that mean? And who would you hold responsible on his team for being like, how could that not have even been in there with the contracts these contestants were signing?
Now, I will put a disclaimer that I haven't seen those contracts, right? So this is just a guess. Now, maybe there was an arbitration provision, but my guess is there wasn't. And most studios and networks and just companies in general will have an arbitration provision because they don't want cases to go to trial. Because you don't want a Johnny Depp, Amber Heard situation where you get $10 million in punitive damages, because juries can award those, An arbitrator will not, right? An arbitrator is usually a retired judge who thinks very evenly and neutrally. But when you put a case in front of like just lay people, they're like, yeah, we want to give, him like $10 million because he suffered at her, Johnny and Amber, her hands. Here, two things could have happened. One, there was no arbitration provision. Or maybe there was one and they just ignored it anyway. So the next thing that will happen will be very interesting, right? Like what's going to be filed by Mr. Beast's team? Is it a motion to dismiss? Is it an answer, right? Is it a motion to move it to arbitration? Like we'll see in the next few weeks, like what's going to happen because he does have to reply to this soon. I think maybe it's 90 days, maybe it's 60 days. It is in California, so that's what's interesting. There's a part of me that like I would love for this to go to trial. I want to go. Like I'll go and like because I'm in California. I probably in LA. I would go watch it. But there's a lot of question marks here as to what's going to happen. I think arbitration provisions tend to help the companies. So when I am on the creator side, I tend to take those out, right? I tend to want the trials. I tend to want the jury trials because the Davids of the world have a better time in court. The Goliaths of the world really want it to be sealed and in front of an arbitrator.
Okay, let's touch on copyright and fair use. One quick question. If someone's channel gets demonetized,
Try Olay for firmer, lifted skin without pricey procedures. Only Olay.
monetized. Do you have any advice for trying to get remonetized quickly if you feel like it's been unfair for the reason that the channel got demonetized?
Well, so this just happened to one of my clients a few weeks ago. And do you want to hear the details of what happened? So
100%.
my client is a kind of very up and coming painting channel. I think they're about to hit 100,000 on YouTube soon. But they really got their start on Instagram, and they always put their content up on Instagram first. This is where they tripped up. They wait a month or two before they put it on YouTube. I tell everybody, if you're going to cross post, do it immediately, right? Because what happens is these bad actors, these thieves, took their videos and put it on YouTube first. YouTube doesn't care. YouTube only cares like who puts it up first. And then, and then their system's like, okay, that's the IP holder. So anybody else who puts it up after is the thief. So my client, they like went off.
So to be clear, so they're an up and coming painting channel. They were crushing on Instagram with vertical videos.
Yes.
And wanting to also do YouTube shorts.
Right.
But there was a delay. So they're just stacking their growth on Instagram, and bad actors download their content and start uploading it on YouTube. And YouTube favors whoever does it first, assuming the first person to upload it on their platform, which they probably have an isolated perspective. They're not scanning what's happening on Instagram and Meta. And so now they think that whoever uploaded it first and the copyright system would work to then scan when somebody else does it, that's the person that is actually pirating the content or re-uploading it, when in fact, these bad actors just beat the upload of someone else's content to the platform. Am I tracking the story?
Exactly.
Okay, back to you.
Okay. So then they went camping, came back to this email from YouTube, and it had already been like, there was a deadline. There was like, I think a 3-week deadline that they had to respond to this, to the demonetization. So they had already lost half the time. They called me panicked. And so the process went that we had to appeal this. We had to make a video, and then we had to fill out all these things, right? So I actually drafted a script for them to make the appeals video, and we started filling out all the kind of information they needed, right, to support their case. Now, I very recently met someone that works at YouTube, and I just asked him, like, hey, this is happening. Could you point me to the right person, that we could talk to, or we could send this video to? Like, I was just asking to see if we can, like, kind of, speed up the process, because we were going to miss the deadline soon. And he very graciously, and I explained, I said, this is my client's content. Like, you can see, this is his face. It is my client's content. Like, there was really very little to dispute here, right? Other than the fact that he uploaded too late. And the guy at YouTube, the executive, was very kind, and he sent it to his team, and his team was like, okay. And they just turned on the monetization. Now, maybe that's like cheating a little bit. I wasn't expecting him to do that, by the way. I just was asking him to point me to the right person. So I didn't see it play out, right? I didn't see the whole process play out. But I think what this case study shows is, if you can show that it's your content, right? That's, you own IP, you're clearly not stealing someone else's IP, because I think that's one of the biggest reasons why YouTube demonetizes, right? Is if they think you're stealing someone's content. So if you can show, for any other, creator out there who, doesn't maybe reach out to me, or like, has to do it on their own, I think you have a pretty good chance of showing it. Now, if you stole someone else's content, like, that's where it gets hairy, right? This is why I say don't steal people's content, because I have had clients, like I have one right now. He got his channels deleted, and it was because he took music from a very famous, game, and now we're having to go back to Sony and ask them if they will take away the strikes. So that's a long process, right, that I'm kind of in the middle of right now. Don't get to the point where you get 3 strikes, right, and it's not resolved, because it can be heartbreaking. I'm sure so many people have lost their channels, and it's like big channels, and they can't get it back.
And for listeners, to be clear, if you get 3 copyright strikes, now your channel is in the crosshairs for termination, oftentimes 7 days later after that 3rd strike. This kind of gets into this crazy world of fair use. Mm-hmm. We use a term encouraging people that we're living in a world where it's pretty wild that people are making careers with OPC, other people's content. Not OPP, naughty by nature, that's something different, but OPC, other people's content. And thousands, tens of thousands of creators are making incredible amounts of money per year talking about The Lord of the Rings on Amazon Prime, or Severance on Apple TV, and using clips and photos, movie review channels. And then people also, political commentary, taking news clips, reacting to presidential debates. It goes on. And I think it's always a light bulb moment, even for your average creator, that they're out here trying to make talking head videos, come up with original content, and struggle for views, and sometimes feels unfair. And there's a lot of criticism people will get. I think Sniper Wolf has been incredibly criticized for creating lazy content.
Yes.
Even copying our React channels, allegedly, for, ultimately not just doing React, like there's reaction content, there's like levels of how lazy it could be, but let's kind of go at a high level. In your definition, when someone says, what is fair use content? What does that mean, and why does that apply to YouTube? If we work through this for listeners that are new to this whole world, what is fair use content?
I'm happy to explain it. Since you brought up Sniper Wolf, that's something that's very, not her, but the situation is very dear and near to my heart, because I represent Jax Films, and I also represent Aziland, and they're a common enemy, right? Mm-hmm. And I really don't like people who steal people's content, because it's work that they have done. Creators
Can you backtrack and give the context, because listeners might not know what we're talking about.
So Sniper Wolf,
Isn't it absolutely bonkers that you can walk into a store, hand someone a piece of plastic, and they will willingly hand over Reese's cups? Forget flying cars. This is it. We're at the pinnacle.
Where regular brushes miss, or Oral-B Electric, hey, for 100% cleaner teeth.
Has been kind of notorious for taking videos from TikTok. And what really kind of made people upset with her was that she would take people's handles off. Like, not only was she stealing people's content, she was like not giving them credit. And so just like thousands upon thousands of small creators just weren't getting the credit. Like, she was just making these videos with millions of views, making money off of their work, basically. And she would claim, or reaction videos would claim, well, this is fair use, right? Because I'm transforming it. But she's not really transforming it. That's one of the elements of fair use, where you have to transform it. Like saying, ew, gross, that's not transforming a video, right? Like really transforming a video is something different. Or doing a critique on it like a film critic, right? So Jack's Films created a second channel called Jack's Films. And so his goal was to take her videos, basically call her out, on her actions, and then give credit to all the creators that she wasn't getting credit for. So Jack kind of rose as this like almost Robin Hood-esque like hero, saving, those because he has a bigger channel. He could highlight the injustice that was happening. Last year in October, I guess, it's been like a year now, Sniper Wolf decided to show up at Jack's home and live stream the front of his house to her 5 million Instagram followers. And this terrified Jack and his wife. I immediately hopped on this. I made a video about this, about how wrong it was. And this was right when I started my law firm last year. And I just very kind of I did not expect anything to happen, by the way. I said, Jack, if you need help, I would love to support you. And that night, he wrote me an email and said, well, if you need me, I know you probably think this is a scam, but I could verify myself. So I think in one of his videos, still in the description, if you look at the very bottom, it has the word Yeti, which is my dog's name. Because I was like, go ahead and put Yeti, show me it's you. And it really was him. And so I helped him for several months. I can't really go into the details of what happened there, but let it be known that is not okay. What we do here in video on the internet should stay there. It should never show up in real life. I mean, it was really incredibly terrifying for them that she showed up at their house. And then for months and months after, because people figured out his address, they would be sending him packages. I mean, they would get hundreds of packages and they would never open it because they're terrified. Are these from her fans? So it was really a terrible situation.
And so and the internet term is doxing, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's doxing.
Yeah. So if and this gets into kind of bullying or harassment, which we could circle back to, but this kind of a case study of what you're saying is when it comes to fair use, Sniper Wolf was not transforming or really adding critique. There's a difference between transforming, adding critique, or just reacting. There's levels to it.
Right.
So let's go high level again, though. What is fair use and how do you do it the right way? In fact, Tyler in our community said, what do you do if you know your content falls under fair use but has a claim against it? That's maybe two different questions. So let me hit you with that in a second.
Okay.
What is good fair use that creators could lead into leveraging other people's content appropriately to avoid potential legal issues?
I will say that this area is very tricky. If you go just by pure law, it's actually very hard to, be protected by fair use, let's say. Now, historically, film critics, they can usually without the ire or the scrutiny of the studios telling them no, they could very easily show clips from a movie and then talk about it, right? Because that's one of the elements of fair use. You can be a critic and give your opinion as to how is this film, right? So you can use the clips from it.
So there's kind of history and context even pre-social media for film critics, and that's a huge niche on YouTube. If we go a little bit deeper on that, what about news? Because pre-YouTube, news would have pulling clips from public places to talk about it because they're commentating on that, and news has a huge opportunity on YouTube to start a news channel. Is it the same? There's historical context, but can I just, download the debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris and then just react to it and chop it up, fair use.
It always depends on, what is the position of the studios or the networks, right? Like if they want to come after you, they can. I mean, at the end of the day, they own the IP. If they don't like what you're doing, they can take it down. Now, just from a pure logistics standpoint, like when I was at Disney, we rarely actively went after violators because the sheer volume of IP violators would be in the billions. So it's usually when someone would bring it to us and they would say, this is very egregious, or this is like making you look really bad, like you guys should go after them. So it's really like there's that consideration. But also, when I tell clients who are creators who want to use clips, I say 2 to 3 seconds. It's not bulletproof, but I really think like if you keep it less than 5 seconds.
That's so short.
It's very short.
And you just what if you want to react to a whole 30-second to 60 seconds of audio as well?
Breeze. Have you tried these Febreze Carb Vent clips? The intensity dial gives you total control. I can turn it up. That smells good. Or turn it down. Nice and light. Enjoy 40 days of freshness your way.
Hello, handsome. And hello, random chair. Clean up with Apple Intelligence means goodbye, chair. iPhone 16e. Latest iPhone, greatest price.
Again, it really depends on the IP holder, right? Like the IP holder can come after you and say no. They can do a strike, they can do a claim, right? Kind of to your question. But a lot of what I'm seeing, and I don't work at a news network. I think a lot of times news networks are not as precious as maybe studios with their films. Studios make money from their films, right? They don't want you to watch it. They wouldn't allow a whole film to be shown on YouTube, right? Because they want you to like go pay for their app or like go in the movie theaters. So it all comes down to like, what's the monetary consideration? For news, it's such a short thing, right? Like if they really want to capture it in the first 24 hours, like then they have other content that they're making. So they care a little less, I think news networks do. That's been my experience compared to film and TV. But at the end of the day, what I want creators to realize is whoever content you're using, they own it. They can come and claim it and strike you if they want to. And then you have to like go back and forth with them as to explaining like why you think it's fair use. Sometimes, I've helped clients where this happens. There was a biology channel. They show a lot of like animal videos, and my client used a couple. We went to them because they placed a strike. We went to them and we said, what would you like? This is such an important thing. Like, what do you need? What do you want, right? This is what I always ask the other side when I'm making a deal. They said, well, I want credit and I want some money. So we ended up paying him a few $100s and he removed the strike. So it's always like, are you using it fairly? Are you giving them credit? You can go get a license. Like that's what some creators do. Like they just go pay for a license and then you're protected, right? Like you won't run into
that, like a license from who and what example?
Well, so that example with like the biology channel, right? With the animal clips. Like he sells it to people. Like he's like, yeah, you want to use my video? It's $50, or
people take his animal clips for their stuff.
Yes.
And he's like, what I want credit and I want some money, as opposed to people just using it without giving me credit or giving me money.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah. So I would say.
And then that's a written agreement of some kind.
Yes.
In each case.
It's
so
not unlike
a communication for that. How do they reach out to him and without people? Because YouTube now, if I go into the copyright area of YouTube, I see people will download and re-upload Think Media videos. Now, honestly, a lot of times I won't track it down because they'll get like 4 views. So I'm like, okay, it's just sitting out there, sitting over there. There's other times where they'll also take a clip of it. And because I think probably a lot of creators that are really in this probably have a much more liberal mindset towards fair use. You're like, yeah, I mean, you gave 2 minutes of my video, but you put whatever. And there's kind of and I would fall into this camp. If I tried to take all the monetization for the hard work someone put into a video, then in my opinion, I'm like, yeah, I'm just like a little clip in it. And they cited that, whatever. I'm not going to try. that the reverse of that oftentimes, I believe, has the negative public opinion of when you only use a few seconds and you make a video essay or a YouTube documentary, and then somebody with a tiny clip says they get the whole thing. You're like, yeah, right, man. Look how much high quality, high effort, how much energy they put into that. But, you know, this is the murky world. Any thoughts on kind of the mindset I'm going through here?
Ask me what the question is. Sorry.
Well, I guess it's just YouTube in the back end is going to show that somebody uploaded this guy's animal clips.
Mm-hmm.
How does he follow up to actually get the money and get the credit once maybe the video is already public? How does he even create the communication with which to license the clips of his animal content?
Well, I'm saying to do it proactively, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if my client took several, clips from this biology channel, and I think it was because he did it several times that it kind of like got on the radar of this biology channel. I'm saying before you even use someone's video, go to them and say, hey, I want to use these 5 videos. I'm going to use like 10 seconds each or something. Be very specific. And I'd like to pay you $150. And sometimes people will say yes, right? Because they just want to get paid for their work. Now, some people will say no, right? And they're like, no, you just stole my content. And you can't convince them to take the strike off. That's why if you had done the license beforehand, then you would be protected against this happening. I will say, as sort of not a catch-all, not making you bulletproof, if you like, make sure to credit people. I mean, be a good person about it, right? Like credit people's content that you're using. Sometimes that will be enough to not anger somebody to come after you. But it's not always like that means YouTube doesn't care, right? If you took someone's IP, you took someone's IP. Like you saying, well, I credited them. They don't care. Like YouTube doesn't care, and the IP holder might not care. They just care that you took their content.
I think the last thing on just this category, I love going deep, and you're adding massive value. And if you're listening to this, leave a review. And if you're watching this, hit the like button, helps the YouTube algorithm, and let me know if you want to have Tyler back on. I certainly do, because we're probably 10% through my questions. But 2 questions. There is a massive niche on YouTube called faceless channels and YouTube automation. Are you familiar?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then there's also, maybe I'd say like there's like lazy cash grab faceless channels.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like high quality, I want to call them video essays or YouTube documentaries. So, and these are some of my favorite channels. People covering Diddy right now. Wow. A lot of smoke around that situation. And they're making, they're pulling photos. They're altering the photo, they're animating them. They're pulling clips. They're pulling old clips of Justin Bieber and Diddy talking, and then they're cutting in their commentary. They're writing an entirely original script. They're scoring the music on it. And they're pulling clips from Entertainment Tonight and some niche documentary, and they're downloading a video, and they're uploading, a 32-minute, a 47-minute deep dive. Like you said earlier, we're talking about film commentary. It happens all the time. But now you're talking about someone's likeness, aka Sean Diddy Combs, and they're making these videos about it. Now, these channels they're making 10K, 20K, 30K or more a month from YouTube ad revenue. And then eventually they start getting brand deals, and brands are sponsoring these videos. Right. Here's my guess. It's not only my guess, I'm certain in 99% of these cases, they didn't get permission from Entertainment Tonight to use that clip from years ago. That's really the OPC, other people's content type of a thing, but they're trying to hit all the different fair use checklist, transformative, lots of different sources, not just one, lots of commentary, nothing of exceptional length of any one source. And also if it is, it's broken up a little bit at the beginning, a little bit at the end. So let's hit that one first. Is that also just somewhat of a risky proposition? And like you said, fair use is also going to take place in the court. It doesn't even take place on YouTube.
Right.
If someone's doing that, do you have any advice for navigating those waters? If you're trying to make high quality content, but you're not asking, but you are crediting. So whether it's your screen recording and you see the channel, or it says source and it says the channel, and you're really being thoughtful about essentially having your digital bibliography, your digital index of references, and you're making high quality video essays or documentary. Any thoughts on that? And also if that is maybe lucrative now, but might get more scrutinized later, like if it's risky and shaky ground to be building on, or if you think it's, it's a good YouTube, if you will, business model, and if they're going deep on fair use, a lot of these channels are doing very well, and I think they're doing it right because they're crediting people, but I'm curious your take.
I mean, these are such good questions, John. I think that it is like what I hinted at earlier, right? It's a resources and policing issue for these networks, right? They would need thousands upon thousands of people to sit there and go after these, YouTube channels that are making the clips. But to what end, right? Yeah, like they maybe could get them to take it down, but like I think the resources to police this would be really, really costly. I think at the end of the day, like, because I've been on the studio side, I think the calculation we would take is, well, that's old content, right? Like if we're using this example of Sean Combs, and they're bringing, like people, they give credit, so they're like, oh, it's like, Entertainment Weekly or whatever show, right? I think most of the studios and networks like probably won't go after people who just take.
I love my natural hair, but not what hoodies were doing to it. So I made my own. Chasing Philly helps my business grow, one hoodie at a time.
Get financial guidance from bankers in your community and convenient digital tools all in one place. Chase for business. Make more of what's yours.
Again, it's the whole movie, it's the whole TV show, it's the replacing them, right? That consideration is not happening here, right? I don't think they're being replaced because it's old content. Now, one might argue, and I actually think as we get bigger, and when I say we, I believe YouTube is the new Hollywood. I believe all the content is going to be made over here. It's going to be like, all the studios are trying to figure out how to come into the creator space. I mean, I am high level advising private equity funds how to come, invest in this space. Everybody's trying to figure out how to be a creator, right? And I actually think with the tidal wave of more content that's going to be made on YouTube, it's going to be even harder for them to police. It might even get a little less risky, right? You were saying about the risk, because imagine how many YouTube channels there's going to be in 5 years or 10 years. I mean, this is my kids' world, right? Like, this is going to be their future. It's how they take in content. I think it's going to be so hard to police. And unless, YouTube's system, but I don't think these networks are going to be feeding old videos. I think the record labels, they can do it very easily. They can feed their music into the algorithm, and they can do automatic, claims, which I have a client who has a big piano channel on YouTube, and he covers a lot of big songs like Coldplay or, like Taylor Swift, and he just gets automatic claims, and he doesn't care because he's getting millions of views. So he's okay sharing 30 or 40% with the record label because it's their IP, right? And so unless there's more sophisticated detection, but that requires a manual aspect, right? Like, are the networks going to upload all of their content and so that it can be, matched in content ID with YouTube? I mean, I just feel like that's really onerous, and I don't know that that's going to happen. I don't know if I went a lot off track there, but
that's a great answer, and I know we both have a hard stop in a second, and
I look forward to a future conversation.
Yes, I would love to come back.
Probably like 4 or 5 future conversations.
Yes.
Because we got through like 2 of my questions, and I know we went down many rabbit holes. I'm also would encourage, if you're listening on audio, visit us over on the YouTube channel, and drop your maybe future questions in the comments, because I know this is a big area. And I do have one final question for you, but shout out your stuff. So if anybody wants to connect with you, I want to thank you for, this incredibly insightful convo. But how can people connect with you, follow what you're doing if they need help?
Sure. So you can find me, Tyler Chow, the Creator's Attorney, on YouTube, on Instagram. I am not really on TikTok because I don't really like it. But I'm huge on LinkedIn right now. I really want to ask people, if you're not on LinkedIn, it's such a white space. Like the numbers are something like 200 million users in the US, but only 100,000 are actively writing consistently. And consistently is just once a month. So I did this 90-day challenge where I wrote every day. And my law firm exploded. Like I had so many inbounds from CEOs and founders. I mean, 2 of my biggest clients came from LinkedIn. So really think about it. And I write almost every day over there. So if you like the advice or the information I'm giving here, please follow me there. And also, the news that I want to share is I'm going to be launching a community soon with Mighty Networks, because Sean, I'm becoming too exclusive. Only the biggest creators can work with me right now, and I don't like that. So I wanted to start a community where smaller creators can come in and I can teach them, everything. But my love is to help creators become businesses. The community is going to be called the 7-figure creator. I believe, the biggest fallacy that most YouTubers have is they tell me, well, YouTube is my business. And I have to tell them, no, YouTube is the marketing arm of your business. You're the business, you're the media company. But a lot of creators don't, that light bulb hasn't gone on for them yet. But I do this for a lot of my big creators. I'm fractional CEO, and I help them grow out their businesses so that they can be acquired. I'm currently helping one of my creator YouTubers sell his YouTube channel right now, and we're negotiating with private equity funds. It's going to be in the 8 figures. So if you mature and grow your business and have diverse revenue streams, because that's what the funds really want. Do you have a course? Do you have a newsletter? Do you have, an app? Do you have physical products? Like that's what they want to look at. You can't just have your YouTube channel, because I really think purely relying on AdSense and brand deals is a recipe for burnout. And if I could just say one last thing, I really think, in thinking about yourself as a business, creators need to have systems in place. Like I didn't put any systems in place the first 6 months, and the last 6 months I've just been dying and really paying the price for it. And I started, I never had a CRM before. I was like, what's a CRM? And then I got introduced to High Level, which is an amazing product. And
Reese's eggs are back, and we hit them somewhere you'll never find. Psych! We put them everywhere. Grocery stores and supermarkets, gas stations and chiropractors' offices, bowling alleys and grocery stores, which we already mentioned. Reese's.
I used to struggle with dandruff, but now I use Head & Shoulders every wash. Well, because the active ingredient in Head & Shoulders fights off the microbes that cause dandruff.
Where do you think you're going?
See? No flakes down here.
Make every wash count.
2 of my clients work with them, and they make 6 figures in affiliates with them. I was like, what is this? It's replaced like about $1,000 worth of software for me every month. Like I no longer use Calendly or QuickBook or anything. I mean, DocuSign, that's the huge one, because DocuSign is very expensive. So it's replaced several softwares for me. So that's my final advice, is think about getting an attorney and put in some systems in your business, because it will help automate things and make it go faster, so you can create content, because that's what creators are good at.
Well, Tyler, briefly with our 1 minute, check out show notes and links in the show notes, Think Media community. And thank you for adding so much value today. In a nutshell, one of the emotions people might be feeling right now is anxiety, because there's so much opportunity, but it's like, whoa, there's so much stuff I don't know.
and I don't want to get sued, and I don't know if I'm set up right, and I don't know like systems. And I want to encourage listeners, that's what we're here for. Tyler and I are here to help you, subscribe, keep learning, keep growing. I'm just curious you're curious from your perspective. It sort of can feel like when you look at all this stuff, like, man, I just want to hunker down and like not try. So what do you think the right mindset is, in 30 to 60 seconds of being smart, but like not being afraid when it comes to all of this stuff that could get us distracted and maybe stop us from taking bold action?
Realize that this is the future. YouTube is the future. Traditional media is dying. And if you have the courage to get on camera and put your story out there, millions of people can see it. That's the American dream. I feel like it's so powerful and so beautiful. These are details that, like I said, pay some people to be on your team and take care of these issues for you so that you can keep creating, right? That's how you take the anxiety out of the equation. Just have some good people, by your side helping you on this journey, because you are going to get bigger. If you're consistently uploading and you just press record, as Sean likes to say, like you're going in a year, in 5 years, you will be so glad you started your YouTube channel, right? I'm currently putting a YouTube channel in a trust for my clients' kids. It's going to be more valuable than real estate. So just press record and just go. That's my advice.
On the video, you'll see that the video is hyped. You'll see how much it's hyped. You'll be able to add your hype to that result. And then this is just the beginning. We're going to investigate other ways to enhance the hype ecosystem as it evolves.
Do you know how many spots will be on the leaderboard?
I don't. It's still in testing. I imagine there'll be quite a few, though, because you're going to want, it'll update periodically. So I think we're going to want to see a nice list there.
Got it. So the big idea is that if somebody clicks hype, they get 3 a week. And is it true that also there could be a way they could purchase more hypes if they want to invest kind of like fan funding in the creator?
That's something we're thinking about. It's not in testing right now, but I think there's certainly other ways that we can invest in creators and in that ecosystem.
Got it. So once this rolls out, somebody's watching one of the creators they love. They have at least 500 to 500,000 subscribers. I imagine the channel needs to be, do they have to be a part of the partner program? I mean, at 500 subscribers, that's the minimum to be a part.
I believe so, yeah.
And that's that lowest level of the partner program. You
Yes.
get shopping, you get community
And funding.
channel memberships if you want, stuff like that. Okay, so you're in compliance with YouTube. You've gone through that back end, those 4 levels of getting your whole channel checked out. And if that's true, once this is available, then people can start hyping your videos once it's rolled out.
Yeah, absolutely.
I gotcha. And we don't know, though, the exact time when hype will be available in the US at this time.
No, not yet. But I think we're in those 3 countries now, and I think we're just going to continue to experiment and grow from there.
Got it. Okay, well, we're looking forward to that. Now, the next feature is AI-powered video generation in Shorts. What is this, and what does this include?
So last year we announced Dreamscape, which was a way to Dream Screen, which is a way to generate backgrounds. The same way you'd have like a green screen background traditionally, this would let you use AI to generate that background image. And the news this year is that we're bringing VO, which is Google DeepMind's latest generation model, to Shorts. So you'll be able to generate much higher quality backgrounds, and also for the first time up to 3-second video. Sorry, is it 6 seconds? I have to double check that, but like 3 to 6 second videos that you'll be able to use. Like, for example, you forgot like a snippet of B-roll, or you want to have like an animated interlude. You'll be able to generate those videos and use those in your Shorts.
Could that B-roll overlap your video, or it's something you're cutting to that ties into the content?
Yeah, it's just like you could use it like any other clip when you're assembling your short.
And if I'm in, now this stuff is going to be rolled out into opening up my YouTube app, clicking plus, selecting create a short. And as I'm creating the short, I'm filming my own content. I may be pulling some photos or videos from my photo roll. I'm just assembling the short as I normally would. Now this Google DeepMind's Veo AI is incorporated in there. I may be on one scene of it, I'm giving myself a background, and another scene, I'm generating 6-second clips. And these clips are like AI generated video B-roll clips.
Yeah, it's exactly the way Dream Screen works now. It's just a much higher quality rendering or generation in this case.
And then all AI generated content will be watermarked and labeled. So what does that look like?
So it's not watermarked, but it's got an ID signature that shows that it's been generated, so that there's not a mistake that it's from a different source.
So if you were to then extrapolate this to creators as to like practical use case and why this could be a benefit to creators, how would you explain that?
So we had some people at the event that were showing it off. For example, there were booktubers who they were reading through the book, and they used Dream Screen powered by VO to create these backgrounds, like these fantasy backgrounds that really went with the motives of the story that they were talking about, to just give a richer experience to the people watching the short. I've joked that I'd love to have like almost like a Pixar movie, different emotional backgrounds behind me as I go through the emotional story arc. We had a fashion designer who used it to generate I think we've all had this experience. We've watched like our favorite sci-fi movies, and we realize the kind of budgets that Industrial Lights and Magic or Weta are working on. And it doesn't matter how creative we are, we just don't have those like Pixar ILM budgets. But for this, like one of the creators had a dress that turned to fire and then turned to ice. And it's just something that they've always creatively wanted to do, but they just couldn't compete with an effects company on budget. And now the only barrier really is creativity.
That's so cool. And ultimately, this is free. This is it's integrated into YouTube, which is free, and then the Shorts Creator, which is free. And so, of course, if you're listening to this, always and forever update your YouTube app, update your YouTube Studio app to get the latest stuff. But what do we see the timeline of this being rolled out? And is it going to be progressive, or basically will it hit all creators at the same time?
Yeah, so Dream Screen already has rolled out like the basic version from last year, and it's just going to keep getting better and better over the next few months. And I think everyone will just get it as it rolls out.
Got it. All right. So the next big new update is AI-powered brainstorming in YouTube Studio. And I actually already did a video covering this because I looked in the back end. I was like, whoa. And so I saw that this was a revamped inspiration tab with some generative AI in regards to titles, brainstorming ideas, and even outlining for my video.
iPhone 16e has a durable design and ceramic shield because the average person drops their phone 208 times a year. Make that 209 once they see the price. iPhone 16e, latest iPhone, greatest price.
And I asked in that video that I posted as a live stream on our Think Media channel, do you have it yet? And what was kind of cool was creators actually of all sizes saw it in their back end, even if they had not been uploading, but not everybody. So some creators had it. There was a progressive rollout at the time of asking that question, but creators of all sizes had it. Can you explain at a high level, what is AI-powered brainstorming in YouTube Studio, or basically the new revamped inspiration tab?
Yeah, I'll backtrack for a second. Like the reason a lot of these rollouts are progressive is that like we'd like to roll it out to a small number of people, and then if everything's good, we'll just keep rolling it out. But if anybody has any issues, it's much easier to fix those when it's at small scale than when it's at massive scale. And we just don't want anyone to have a bad experience, especially at massive scale. So a lot of these things will roll out to a very small percentage, and then slightly more, and then slightly more. And as we test and fix it, it'll go down.